Morning, everybody. Welcome to our last December CGBN webinar, and hope everybody is doing fantastic today. Just so that everyone is aware, this session is being recorded. We ask that anyone who is not presenting or is part of the panelists to please mute themselves and turn off your recording. The format is over an hour and a half. We will have a presentation first and then followed by the Q&A. If you have any listings or trade missions, please let us know and we're happy to put it on CGBN page. After the session will be recorded, it will be on the CGBN YouTube channel as well as the page. My name is Dimitro Lachman. I'm the current chair for CGBN and president-elect for NICAR. Dr. Mustafa is the vice chair for CGBN. And I would like to say a big thank you to our past CGBN chairs, which is Ahmad Badat, Teresa Mueller, and Bill Caden. Thank you for your continued guidance. You guys are amazing. Today's webinar is called WaterStep, Empowering Communities, Saving Lives, Scalable Water Solutions for a Sustainable Future. And with that being said, I would like to introduce David McCoy, who will make the rest of the introductions.
Hey, everybody. It is such a pleasure to be with you all again. I know a lot of you all are familiar faces. If you do not know me, I'm David McCoy. I have been a volunteer with NAR Global now. This coming up year will be my 12th year. And I am the global coordinator for North America, Central America, and the Caribbean. And so it's a pleasure to be here. I want to thank you for having us. I'm pleased to introduce Mark Hogg and to tell you just kind of a very brief amount. Mark and I have known each other for, I don't know, quite a while, at least 10 years now. And their organization, it's, they have this very, very simple goal. And their goal, believe it or not, is to have pure water for every person on the planet. And I know that sounds incredible, but it is, if you talk to them, it's like, you're going to be a believer. It's like, if anybody can do this, these guys can do this. And so Mark started this organization more than 30 years ago, and they have been working all around the world. And I'm not going to take any of Mark's story, but it's really an amazing story. And it's something that we wanted to share. I told Mark many years ago, I said, Mark, I don't know what you think about this, but I think that, a connection to real estate could be a really nice connection to make because water is just critical for anything, for real estate in particular. And plus the people in real estate, and especially like global and commercial and all that, those people tend to be very well connected. And so they tend to know people that maybe they can do this. And so one of the things about Mark is when Mark started talking to me, he's like, we're just trying to spread the word. We're just trying to, spread awareness, let people learn about it, and just kind of get the grassroots. And we will talk more about some of those stories in the future. But our experience has been that the single best way to do this is to work with individuals and they come up with ideas and it's like, hey, I know someone who might need that, or hey, I know someone you should talk to. And so that's kind of our idea. So we really appreciate your time this morning. I'm going to turn things over to Mark. Mark will be doing a presentation. His part of the presentation, we have an hour and a half, and just kind of in general terms, we don't have a hard schedule, but Mark thought he would spend maybe 30 minutes or so on his presentation, and then he and I would do sort of a interview style question and answer for about 30 minutes, and we'll try to leave some time at the end for people to ask questions. So a few points of order. I think that Dimitro kind of covered some of this. If you don't mind, if you can mute yourself, and while Mark is talking, we don't need to keep cameras off the whole time, but if you're not on the panel, maybe have your cameras off during the presentation. And with that, I guess we'll get started. Mark, you want to introduce yourself and take it from here?
Guys, it's an honor to be here. And I'll tell you what, WaterStep's 30 years old just in a few days, January 1. We're pretty excited about that. But I believe with all my heart, all these years of speaking with people and talking with people, I just don't underestimate the potential possibilities of what could happen. I'll give you a quick example. Yesterday was a big day for us. We spent several years working in prisons in Kenya, which you might think that's kind of odd. Well, a person in Kenya, who we've had some great relationships with and had done some water projects in Kenya. A very strong man. His name is Humphrey Machuma. Years ago, Humphrey went and visited a buddy of his that ended up in prison for some 6, 12, maybe it was 18 months. Anyway, he went to visit him. Deplorable conditions. He'd been in there for several months already. He hadn't had a shower since he'd been there. The water was unsafe. He was sick constantly. Everybody around him had diarrhea and was sick. The guards were sick. Deplorable conditions. Well, Humphrey walked away and he said, I might could do something about that. So he contacted the prisoners guard group there and got permission to come in and set up a safe water system to be able to provide safe water, and that the residents of the prison could manage their own safe water, and they could manage disinfectant, which killed bed bugs. It cleaned wounds. It sanitized the whole place, et cetera, et cetera. And they could learn how to operate these simple pieces of equipment and get jobs when they got out of prison, which has been a pretty crazy thing. So it's 135, I think. I get mixed up. Sometimes it's 135 or 137. Anyway, yesterday we did every single prison in Kenya with safe water and disinfectant and hygiene. I told Humphrey, we had a big celebration online on a WhatsApp call with all our team and everything. And I said, Humphrey, I said, I don't know anybody that could say that they've done safe water and health work in every prison in a country like that, but you. And so I'm excited about being with you guys today, because I learned a long time ago, I just don't underestimate the power of one, if you will, being a part of an addition to the WaterStep team or doing water. So real quickly, I am not an engineer. A lot of people mistake me for one. I'm just a guy. We've been a part of WaterStep. My wife and I started WaterStep in 1995. My history with water happened in college. I had a chance to go to Burkina Faso, West Africa, and was asked to build a dam at a 20-acre lake so that when rainy season came, it would be 60 acres. I had no idea how to do that. So they pointed to some rocks. We mixed concrete by hand. We had about 25 nationals. I couldn't speak their language. They couldn't speak mine. And we limped along and built this wonderful project. But during that time, I saw a lot of people come to get this horribly nasty water as they brought their livestock, their children to bathe and everything else, and they were sick, and sometimes they would die. And so as I left, driving away, I'll never forget, it had etched into me why these people can't take care of their own water and sanitation and hygiene needs themselves. Are they waiting? Do we all have to wait for somebody in a lab coat to respond or something like that? So that put the impetus in me to find an answer. I was able to connect with people that had the same passion over the years, and we came up with, I bumped into a gentleman that talked about a chlorine generator, which is kind of the heartbeat of what we do with water. Is we want to disinfect water. We want that water to have a residual chlorine in that, just like the water that you and I are drinking in our homes and in our businesses, our offices, and wherever we go here in the U.S. And we've been able to do that. And so what I want to talk about today is a little bit about WaterStep and how we work, because we use that and apply that everywhere that we go. And now we've been able to work with Environmental Protection Association, their R&D departments, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and others. And we've developed a system that ordinary people, just like we've done internationally, like with people like Humphrey, can be able to work in disasters in the U.S. To make a difference. So I'm going to run through some slides, if that's okay. And if you got a problem or anything, you just let me know, and we'll just holler out there. And okay, can everybody see the screen? Okay, no, it's okay. All right, so it's pretty simple. We all know, hopefully, that water is the greatest problem on the planet. It kills hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people every year. Most of those are children, and so this is why we can do our work, is that we can make a difference with that. And the way we work is kind of like a Sherpa, which is real odd. I had a guy study us about a year ago, and he said, "Mark, you're not leaders." And I'm like, well, let's take you outside and beat you up till you say we are, because we are a leader. I'm a leader. Everybody in WaterStep's a leader. We've always been leaders. And he said, no, here's the deal. He said, what you guys are guides. He said, y'all have been up to the mountaintop. You've done the work of water. And what you've been able to do is to be able to put programs together that help virtually anyone who wants to be involved in this to get up to the top of the mountain. The difference between a leader and a Sherpa is the leader's going to get up to the top of the mountain no matter what it takes. It takes a tremendous amount of resources. If people around can go, great. If they have to drop off to the side, great. But what a Sherpa does is a Sherpa makes sure everybody gets to the top of the mountain safely and back down. And so once he started talking to us about that, I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. We want to work with anybody so they can go to the top of the mountain and work with safe water. We do that in two ways. We have a water relief program that I'm going to spend most of my time talking about today that has been used in disaster response, Louisiana, North Carolina. We just got out of Asheville the other day. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Here in Kentucky, we've had some pretty major issues and tornado response and flood response. The other one I'm going to talk up real quick now, that's our international work, which if you're familiar with international folk, if you said WASH to them, water, sanitation, and hygiene or health, they're going to know exactly what that is. It's the program that takes those elements and creates a healthy environment. So this is, where are you guys at? I'm going to kind of slide you guys around. Do I slide y'all around like that? So, okay. So the way we work is kind of, we look at 360 degrees with water. We want to find out with our Wash Up program. Wash Up is how we've approached the WASH program that I mentioned earlier. The biggest problem we found with WASH programs is folks do not have the capacity to manufacture tremendous amounts of safe water and disinfectant on site. And that's where WaterStep can make a huge difference. That's what we do. We got invited to the UN. We were one of 800 organizations invited to the UN about 2 years ago in the spring. And we invited our partners at the largest health organization in the Democratic Republic of Congo called SANRU. They help 80 million people a year. So we invited their director of operations and their vice president to go with us. Several of us went with WaterStep. We met them. It was great, really excited. This was the first water conference that the UN had in over 50 years. We had the honor of being invited. We were there a day and a half, and the director of operations for SANRU looked at me and he said, Mark, I don't want to go to any more of these meetings. He said, they're just talking about stuff. He said, we just heard this huge organization and they built 75 latrines and reported on that. And it was a big deal. And we had, 100 people in the meeting and we can do more. He said, I want to go to a restaurant right now and talk about this wash up program and how we're going to knock things out of the park. So without the ability to manufacture as much disinfectant as you might need, without the ability to manufacture safe water, your wash-up programs are limited. So people say they do a lot of wash, or your wash programs are limited. People say they do a lot of wash. A lot of times they're just doing a part of that. So like this group was only working with latrines. They weren't working with the Hogg bit. So again, WaterStep works in a 360-degree view. So we're going to find, where are you getting your water? How are you hauling your water? Where are you storing your water? Do you need to treat your water? How do you need to treat your water? Does it need to be filtered? What are the latrines like at the schools? Are the kids washing their hands with safe water? Does the kitchen have safe water? How are they sanitizing the school? What about orphanages? What are they doing? And let's talk about clinics. Do they have the appropriate solutions to sanitize hospitals and clinics? Most hospitals and clinics in the developing world have a common pan in a room, and folks just come and rinse their hands off in that as they're working. Sanru does the same. Sanru got excited about us because they've worked in WASH programs for years and they could never make it work, so they just gave up. And now we've been doing hospitals with them, did a huge pilot project this year, knocked it out of the park, and we graded it on a scale that the United Nations has. That we graded each of these 5 hospitals. They had all of them, but one had a scale of 100 in the 20s. One had one like was 32. In about 6 months, those hospitals were up into the upper 80s and even the 90s because they've been able to implement the wash up program. And we again went all the way down. Where are you at with your water? What are you disinfecting? What about your latrines and your toilets, et cetera, your hygiene education? And here's a curveball that I'll throw at you. One of the cool things that we've been able to do with our equipment is I'm able to manufacture so much safe water, I can sell that. I'm able to manufacture so much disinfectant, I can sell that. So a lot of folks that are impoverished are able to go to market with these products and make money. And we've seen organizations and people do that for a long time. One of the hospitals in our pilot program with Sanru started selling disinfectant to other hospitals. Well, they can't find disinfectant anyway. If they could, it's too expensive. They can't get it. Well, now they're able to get it affordably, and this hospital's manufacturing for other hospitals like crazy disinfectant and making just a little bit of money with that. So that's kind of that 360-degree view. What happens as we work with people in this way is we hit these points in that 360-degree circle. And each one of those points, what it does is it's able to create, as we build confidence in those points, like sanitation and latrines, like disinfecting common public places, like access to safe water, like hauling safe water, like instead of on my head or my neck, I'm rolling our water ball that you can roll 3 times as much water in. Those points become actually, if you can imagine, these wonderful layers of health. And each time one is done, it strengthens the other, and they build up. And all the people in the community are participating in these stronger and stronger layers of health for the community. We've seen that for years. It's amazing. And it's a way those common, ordinary people, like I saw years ago at that lake when I was building the dam, they're all being able to manage their health for themselves and have hope that things will get better. Gotta push a button there. The thing I want to talk about now is I want to talk about mobile water treatment. In states, mobile water treatment really isn't done very much at all because water is managed state to state to state, and nobody knows what to do with mobile water treatment because there's hardly any folks out there doing that. And so what we've done in Kentucky, which is pretty great, is we've been able to develop a relationship with our health department here in Kentucky, our governor's office, and others in the sense that when there's a disaster, when the governor says this is an emergency order, our Kentucky Health Department calls the governor's office and they say, hey, we're doing this flooding in eastern Kentucky. We want WaterStep and their equipment there. Can we do that? And the governor sends an email out and he says, absolutely. So that's what we've done in Kentucky. Other states are still trying to figure that out. When we went to North Carolina, they were struggling with that. The North Carolina Health Department actually asked our health department for 4 WOW carts to work in their disaster there from Helene. And actually, Helene financially is now costing more than Katrina. It's been a major problem there. But the health department in North Carolina could not get the right permissions from the state to use those 4 WOW carts, so they just sat and collected dust. And now we got to go back and pick those up. The problem is this heavy bureaucracy because there is no frame of reference for these mobile water treatment systems. The good news is that WaterStep's working with the NSF, the National Sanitation Foundation, and some of these other groups to get certification done on these and start that. We were in Asheville, and for the first time ever, we saw some other folks bringing mobile water treatment type units in. Nobody knew what to do with them. And so it was pretty crazy. We were able to be successful. We set up at a creek. We pulled water out of the creek. The creek sat between two large communities, neighborhoods, and the people in those neighborhoods manage that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So let's talk about what goes on in a disaster. It is absolute chaos. I'm sure some of you folks have worked in disasters in your communities or other communities. Your companies maybe had visited and done something with them. The big problem with disasters today is disasters are increasing at an incredible rate, 14 to 17% exponentially each year. We're seeing that all the time. We're seeing that this year. We're seeing that right now with the storms that are coming in that are just kind of out of control. In a disaster, the main things that are immediately needed is access to medical care, access to safe water, and then for medical professionals, if you ask medical professionals that are working in a disaster, what's your biggest need? They'd say, I can't get enough safe water. All I can get is bottled water. I can't get it in bulk. And we don't have enough disinfectant to manage what we're doing. In our history in working with disasters, we've leaned on these huge reverse osmosis machines that are the size of a trailer. They had one in Swannanoa in North Carolina when we were down there at the Swannanoa River. The thing was as big as a tractor trailer. It had 5 technicians working with it 24/7. It's very complicated. Then the other thing you got is bottled water. Well, I'm a mom. I got 3 kids, so I got 2 packs of bottled water. So how do I cook with that? How do I bathe I'm not letting my kids bathe in boil advisory water. How do I bathe them? So large amounts of water are a big problem, even here in the U.S. So that's the reality of disasters here in the U.S., and that has not changed even since Katrina. So here's the wild card. I want to show this to you guys real quick to give you kind of a context of that and see if we can help you understand that a little bit.
Bottled water is always the first reaction, first response, get safe drinking water to the people. Bottled water, you can't cook with it, clean with it, prepare food,
We can see
shower, laundry, that sort of thing. And if there's a longer term outage of the water supply, the bottled water is such a solid waste issue. Water treatment, emergency water treatment systems, typically not that many out there. A lot of times they'll be on a big semi-tractor trailer. They'll have all sorts of advanced technology, very hard to operate. You have to be an expert. And they might not even be able to get into the situation. In Puerto Rico, the big trucks couldn't even get there. And so there was this gap, both a physical and a conceptual gap of easy to operate, easy to transport, and a technology that can treat water of all kinds. In about 10 minutes, right, this will turn into a pretty strong boil. Oil goes one way, sodium goes the other way. It separates the two electrically. For some years, known what it's like working. So we've been in these international disasters.
You want to pause it for a second?
And supply.
Say again. I'm sorry.
We can't see the video unless I'm the only one.
Can't see it.
No.
Oh, no.
And I just emailed Amy. Are you available to see if we can get?
So in practice, that worked. Let's see if I reshare, if that helps.
Right. I couldn't see the video either. It was black. There you go.
I'm so sorry.
No worries.
All right. Y'all got to holler louder. All right. Okay. Here we go. Let's see. I don't know how to make it play now. I got too many buttons up here.
Lower left corner. There you go. All the way to the left corner. See there you go. Can you click it?
So that's giving me that, and it's not letting me play. So let me see. Let me stop sharing. I'm so embarrassed. Okay. So I'm going to share again. Maybe I'll go here. There we go. How's that? Can you see that?
No, I don't see anything.
Oh,
You
nothing.
don't see anything. Yeah, so that's interesting because when I go to the Chrome, it doesn't do anything. Okay, so maybe I'll just put that in the. Do you see that?
Nothing.
It doesn't look like you're sharing your screen right now.
Okay.
I think you shared the screen before, and you just need
There
to.
we go.
Okay, I think that's it. Yeah, click
You
that.
see it?
Yep.
All right. Can you
Yeah,
still see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see now. Yes.
All right, hang on. Let's start playing it. Okay, here we go. Sorry. This will give you some context.
There
Okay.
we go.
Bottled water is always the first reaction, first response, get safe drinking water to the people. Bottled water, you can't cook with it, clean with it, prepare food, shower, laundry, that sort of thing. And if there's a longer term outage of the water supply, the bottled water is such a solid waste issue. Water treatment, emergency water treatment systems, typically there's not that many out there. A lot of times they'll be on a big semi-tractor trailer. They'll have all sorts of advanced technology, very hard to operate. You have to be an expert. And they might not even be able to get into the situation. In Puerto Rico, the big trucks couldn't even get there. And so there was this gap, both a physical and a conceptual gap of easy to operate, easy to transport, and a technology that can treat water of all kinds.
In about 10 minutes, right? This will turn into a pretty strong chlorine. Chlorine goes one way, sodium goes the other way. It separates the two, separates the two electrons.
For some years, we've known what it's like to work in a disaster. We've been in these international disasters where we've been supplying safe water and sanitation. And we realize that there's this niche that needs to be filled. And it's between bottled water and more expensive power hogging machines that require technical support. And that's what the wild card brings. It brings together possibilities, it brings together some security, and it brings together the opportunity that I can operate this with my team, and my team can teach each other and others how to operate it as well.
Yeah, the wild card is a piece of equipment that we've developed where we've taken all of our technology, the M100 chlorine generator. We've taken bleach making, filtration, from simple filtration for getting out, particles down to 25 microns to activated carbon filtration. Combining all of that with a dual fuel generator that runs off of propane or gasoline that will supply energy to the M100, to bleach making, but also to a large jet pump, which is capable of distributing water. We've taken all that, we've packaged it up into this 3 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot rolling piece of equipment. And WOW stands for water on wheel. The hoses are all quick connect. I can run through filtration, through chlorination, and I can take the chlorine right back out again if I want to.
One other interesting thing that is just not for emergency response. It could be deployed ahead of a situation, or like at nursing homes, prisons, hospitals, where if there is a loss of power or water, they can treat their own water for sanitary purposes or for drinking or for whatever.
Okay, we back?
Yes, we're back.
All right. Let me try to get back to my little
I'm going to make a comment while you're doing that, Mark,
Please.
if you may. So one of the things I'd like to emphasize to all of you guys is when we're looking at those pictures, lots of times there were big trucks, there were big receptacles, there were all of this equipment. That is not the kind of, this is not, you do not need those large trucks or anything else for this to work. One of the really cool things about this, they talked about the WOW cart. The WOW cart is kind of all of the technology in one, and it kind of does everything. And you are going to have to correct me, Mark, because Mark, these are my impressions. I could get this wrong. But some of this stuff, I mean, if you were only getting the chlorine generator, that'll fit in a gym bag. I mean, it's amazing. You can do this. So I guess I want to emphasize that when you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh, God, we need to have a truck and we need to have all this stuff. When they started this whole program out, like with the initial chlorine generator, they were kind of thinking it through. And it's like, if we are going into a disaster, and not every use is for a disaster, but let's just talk about disasters. We want to be able to get something where we can get it in there, it's simple to use, and it needs as little as possible. So these things with basically a handful of salt, a water source that needs to be purified, someplace to put the pure water, and a power source, which could be a car battery. You can generate 10,000 gallons of pure water a day with one device. And you think about that. We'll talk a little bit more about the wow cart. I'm going to get a little bit ahead of you, Mark. The wow cart. I mean, it's not like a cheap piece of equipment. It's like 40 grand, which is a lot. But think about the fact that in Puerto Rico a few years ago, there were something like 1 million plastic bottles of water left on a runway, and I guarantee you they spent more than 40 grand on plastic bottles that didn't do anything. And plus it left all that waste. And if you could do something that could generate 10,000 gallons of water a day, I mean, when you think about it like that, it's not that much. So anyway, I'm sorry for interjecting. I kind of took over there for a second, Mark, but I thought while you were looking at stuff, I would make a comment.
That's great. And I don't need to show slides anymore. I would like to try, if I can, to show this this shot of what happened in Asheville. Are y'all able to see this now?
Yes, I see that. Yeah.
Okay. Listen to Keith. So in Asheville, we had a cart at a creek. People were coming to that creek with 5-gallon buckets to get water to flush their toilets. Some were drinking it. They were sick. When we got there, we were able to teach a couple of folks. Keith was one of them, whom you'll see here. And they were able to manage every day, 7 days a week. Keith was there, 8 in the morning till 6 at night with his team. And they, ordinary folks like you and me on this call, were able to learn how to operate the well card. It's very simple, and to be able to manage a safe water on site. We had 3,000 gallon silo tanks and two 1,250 gallon bladder tanks. So you were looking at almost 12,000 gallons of water on site. People working. We had a gentleman that came every day, twice a day, and he filled up his shower truck. He was doing showers for homeless people. But Keith's just a regular guy, and this is a little bit of his story.
I was not prepared for the ferocity of the storm at all.
We lost sound.
It's falling, like a tree just snapping in half. I've never heard anything like that before. Very, very scary.
Y'all can see this?
I was coming down this creek right over here, just like all the rest of my neighbors, getting flushing water and kind of climbing down with a bucket. And someone came over and said, "Hey, did you know they're about to set up an operation over here?" Which was WaterStep, that's going to filter the creek water. And I just found that fascinating. I was looking for ways to help the neighborhood, and I kind of was doing that on an individual basis. But then when I saw this and the potential to help the whole community, I pivoted right towards it. I've been here every day since, running the site. So I've had a lot of people that have done mission work and have seen sort of the other areas that WaterStep might go to and provide relief. And they're just like me, amazed that we now have this kind of system in our neighborhood. What I've heard from most people that come here and use it is just gratitude. I've had people break down in tears when I tell them there's going to be clean water to drink as long as you need it. I liken it to the village well now. We all kind of gather here and exchange stories and information, and I'm super proud of everyone that have just banded together and made this a little less tragic than it was.
So that's the work we did in Asheville. Wow. Hang on. It's kind of a fun little beat there.
Easy ordering, fast turnaround, and free shipping. Sticker Mule is the internet.
We got somebody's audio bleeding through here.
Got it. Is all good now?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so I'm done. And would love to chat with you guys a little bit more. I think my hope was for you to get a little something maybe new in your brain to noodle around there and imagine the connections that you have, the communities that you live in. And I love what David was saying earlier, is there is really not any preparation for disasters with water other than pallets of bottled water, which has a 2-year shelf life that you have to replace. In Kentucky, we are positioning 20 to 30 what we call lily pads around the state that will have our wow carts, tanks, everything ready for pre-trained people for deployment to be able to respond to disasters, and then be able to have people have water within hours, all that they need, and disinfect it for emergency workers, etc. But thank you all so much for today. David, it's an honor that you put up with me for so many years, and what a wonderful thing that we're at this moment. But remember, our job at WaterStep is to help you do something that you may not have ever thought to imagine, and that's to change the health of a community, whether it's here in the U.S. or elsewhere. Thank you.
So if I may kind of, the next part we were just going to kind of chat. And I think what I'd like to do, if I may, is just kind of describe a few things and have you react to some of this. Mark, one of the things that WaterStep gets the most, let's say, credit for is the disaster situations. And that's one of the things that's really, it really is incredible. I was kind of listing through things. It really is amazing. Like they were involved in Haiti. They were involved in Puerto Rico. They are involved right now in Ukraine. They're involved in Africa. It's really, really incredible that they can kind of go into these basically, disaster zones and really make a difference. And I think that is really critical. What would be, I think, even better would be to have some kind of not so dramatic successes. And what I mean by that is, for instance, last year, Jamaica got hit by a hurricane for the first time in close to 30 years. In Jamaica, it only hit like a certain part of the island. It wasn't widespread damage, but they were really in a bad way. And the government, we had been talking to the government for a while and they hadn't gotten there. And then it kind of got to the point, and then the government, one of the things that, and again, I'm going to let Mark react to this, but when I first started trying to help Mark, my first reaction was, well, I might be able to connect to a whole bunch of these different governments in these different places. And I still think that's a good idea, but I think that what experience has told me is that the more effective way to go about this is like grassroots, people on the ground and people who themselves need to take ownership of it and do that. The governments often have a lot of red tape, and it's hard for them to react, and it feels kind of unsatisfying. And so with that, I know I've been talking a lot there, but Mark, can you kind of talk about your experiences with those issues a little bit?
Absolutely. I think as I told you the story about what happened in North Carolina, when you get at these higher levels, there's a lot of confusion. If you've got something that's not really approved by the state, there's a lot of fear. Nobody wants to get stung with some sort of lawsuit and that kind of thing, which is, in my humble opinion, now is a great time to begin to approach people. We know where the disasters are going to happen. We've seen that, but how do we begin to help people understand how to prepare for those? We are working diligently to get some certification nationally for our equipment. But then again, that'll have to be introduced to different states, which can be done now. The cool thing is our governor has written a letter that really he endorses our work in disasters, and not just with WaterStep, with our state. That's the great thing is, we can teach somebody how to use the cart like Keith, and they can be very effective doing that for, he did that for months. So anybody can be, again, brought up to that level of healthcare. But I think with water, but where we're at is you all are an incredible influencing team. You all can really change. We have to change the paradigm. We have to shift the paradigm for water and disasters. It's never been done. For decades, we've been dependent upon bottled water. We were in Asheville. We are anywhere else. You're seeing storms now, and that can change. But it's going to take a really some good connections and some a bit of movement on the parts of those that know people.
And another thing, I think I'd like to talk to kind of you to the audience in general about some things. One of the things that I would like you to do, I mean, I so much appreciate everybody coming and doing this, but when we walk away from this webinar, I would really hope that some of you would feel inspired to just, more than just say, hey, I learned this different thing, to kind of, I'd like you to try to imagine these things. It is amazing to me, the things that have come over the years, because somebody had a little bit of imagination. A big one is the disinfectant generator, the chlorine generator that they made. WaterStep had been doing that, and Mark, you're going to correct my story. I'm going to tell it the way I remember it, and you correct it. But you all may recall, maybe not quite 10 years ago, there was a global Ebola concern, and there was all of this concern, and WaterStep was doing work in Africa. And one of the people there on the ground in Africa, which was kind of ground zero for the Ebola epidemic, called him up and said, this water generator you use, I mean, basically this very same setup could be modified a little bit and you could make disinfectant. And it's like, wow, we never really thought about that. And so that changed everything. I mean, that is a monumental shift. And another story, I'm going to make one more comment, and then I'm going to turn it back for your comment, Mark. Another idea that a guy had, they were doing a program, and again, I'm not going to get this quite right, so Mark has to correct me on these things. But there was a gentleman in Texas who had a big farm. He had a cattle farm. And in that farm, the cattle had like this giant pond, and the pond was full, frankly, of cow manure. And so the water was not really usable. And they had this problem. It's in an arid part of the country, and they were trying to figure out water and what they could do. And this guy saw the thing, and he's like, you know what? I think that device could be used in my pond, and that would solve my irrigation issue for my cattle. And so these kinds of things, you never know. And one final story in Ecuador, they were working with Ecuador and with some of the people in Ecuador, and it was a smaller community. They said, I think that we could adapt that technology and actually put it in line to purify water going to a village and have it like part of that process. And these are all things that people hadn't thought about before. And so I would like to challenge you all to kind of think about the way that this might be used and people who might benefit and how it might be shared. And with that, I'm going to pause again because I warned Mark and everybody up front, I talk way too much. But I'm going to let Mark respond to these things that I've just said, if you don't mind.
Well, I'll just thank you, David, for kind of cheerleading what we do and cheerleading us. But absolutely, I said it at the beginning. I believe, with the connections that this incredible team has. And Ahmed, we were talking yesterday just about your experiences and some of that. I think how this group wants to move forward with the possibility of building a networking of people to bring something new to the table. We're in, right? We'll throw everything out on the table and how can we help you with that vision that you might have? It's exciting. It's exciting, and it's ordinary people that can learn this and apply it and then teach others.
One other thing that has made an impression on me that we kind of talked about tangentially, but this is like a growing grassroots movement. And so we kind of have, I'm going to call them franchise operations in different parts of the globe. And there's a group that is using WaterStep's, processes and all this stuff in Africa. And I guess what I want to do is I want to move beyond the idea that you wait for a disaster to kind of do these things. I'd like to move toward that. Mark, can you talk a little bit about some of the work that's going on in Africa and some of the groups that are doing that in that area?
Absolutely. We have a lot of folks in Africa that we've worked with over the years. And in Africa, we work also in Central America, the Philippines, some other places. But Africa has so many areas that need help that we've just developed some great partnerships in many different countries. But once they've learned how to set the systems up with their strategies to be able to provide safe water, they've also been able they take the systems and then they respond to disasters, which is an incredible story in and of itself. And that's beyond anything that we had ever planned for them. And again, it goes back to this idea with this lily pad here in Kentucky. We worked in the disasters in Western Kentucky after the floods, and we worked in Eastern Kentucky, and then everybody's scratching their heads like, well, why are we hauling this stuff around? Why don't we stop, figure out a strategy? We pinpoint these tools that we need, and then the Rural Water Association, the Health Department, the Kentucky Water Department, all these groups come together and make it work. And that's what can happen. And if in your businesses easily, some of you all know businesses that respond, let's get a big old trailer and fill it with chainsaws and let's go down there and help out. Well, add safe water to that. There's just so many different ways to be creative. Like David was talking about, these folks in Africa are just creative with how to use a great tool to do more than they thought they could.
And another thing is, WaterStep is, their goal, and again, I'm going to let Mark correct me anytime I stray off path, but their goal is to get water to the whole world. And so they don't really, he talked a little bit about the water bowls and some of these other things, and some people kind of do businesses. And you know what? It's like, if people want to make money, we're not opposed to that, as long as it's promoting the idea of getting water to these people. And so that is another thought that we thought about. Mark mentioned a little bit about the water bowl. This guy who was working with him many years ago came up with this idea. It's almost like a wheelbarrow, except it's a sphere at the bottom of it, and you can pour water in it. And so they came up with this idea, and so there are people who've bought those, and so in places where it's hard to get clean water, they get the clean water and they roll it back someplace where they can carry way more water than they normally could. So they have enough that they can share with other people and or sell it. And it's like, that still manages our goal. And another idea that we've been working with, some of the people at WaterStep have been talking to me about, it's like, for places where they're hurricane prone or maybe they're earthquake prone or something like that, why wouldn't we consider selling some of this stuff to developers for them to have on site for their places, so that if something happens that disrupts their water, they have that on site as an emergency backup? And so, they're willing to kind of sell that privately to people for that use. And really, if it's there, it's sort of an extra bonus, because let's say there's a disaster and they don't need it. Well, it's there. They might be willing to just donate that use to somebody else in the community. So these are all ideas we're trying to develop. And I think that, again, kind of with this group of people, one of the things that, when I started doing stuff with Mark was, since I do so much with international at NAR, it was to kind of help work through international stuff. But it's going to come up places where you don't think. I guarantee you, I'm saying this without any research whatsoever, but I'd be willing to bet you that this would be something that could be used in some place like Canada. And you would probably think, well, Canada is not, you don't have to worry about that, but Canada is an enormous country and a lot of rural areas. And I bet you anything, in some of those rural areas, they could use clean water. Yeah, I mean, you never know. And so all over the world, don't limit your thinking. And so I am going to issue somewhat of a call to action to you all today. We're interested in people who might be interested in this. We're interested in you spreading the word. If you have an organization that you think would like to know about this and have a presentation, we might be interested in that. And so we really want to challenge you to think about this in ways that it might be benefit people you might know in some way. I also forgot to mention, I meant to say this, we at the very beginning, we put a few links. There's a link to WaterStep's YouTube channel where you can see a bunch of their videos they have. Most of their videos are in English. They do have some in Spanish. They're generally pretty short, but they have information about it. We also did a link to their Facebook page. Mark had a couple of links. He had one link to one of the videos from Asheville and what they did there. And so we want to be able to share that information, take that, share it with people. And I see we are getting close to noon. We might pause here because I have a tendency to run on, and let you guys respond, ask about questions you might have or comments you might have, or ideas that you might have.
Perfect. Thank you, David. We'll do Ahmed first, Landry, and then I'll get into Marcia's questions. Ahmed? You're muted, Ahmed. There we go.
Thank you, Mark and David. Great job. Excellent. So you make a point when you said, David, government red tape. So you got to remember, in some parts of the world, it's just not government red tape, but it's government, ineffectiveness, or just the very notion that the government would be running something. But there is this very fragile, and Mr. Landry could impress upon it when he gets a chance. But there is this very fragile partnership between NGOs and government entities, because to get anything done, you want the government to basically give you the green light. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. You're going to be struggling. So again, the NGOs, you're going to work with those that have credibility in the public square. So there's not just, again, been handed over to someone who has a lot of questions in terms of their credibility. So it's, and in Africa, I'm very familiar how things work. I grew up there, spent half my life there. So that's why we got a couple of people here, and this conversation we will take on at a later stage, particularly with Mr. Landry Olesukan, who is very well connected, lives in Boston area, has his own brokerage business in the area, but also is very well connected in Nigeria. So I've met with people he is connected with, and so that is going to be an important part. The other thing is, Mark, your partnership, is it with NGOs? It is with other nonprofits? Is it a part of government entities? Is it all of the above?
All of the above. We will work with anybody to help people have access to safe water.
Okay. So one of the things when I grew up in Southern Africa, so give you an example, Swaziland, a very common disease was bilharzia. Bilharzia has it's a technical term, which I can't remember, but that came from water. people bathed in the rivers there. That was their shower. That was their bathing place every day. But everyone basically had bilharzia. So this is again something that plays a role in the rural areas. A very simple solution, but I can see a lot of stuff coming out of here. And thank you for to you and David to bring this program to us.
Perfect. Thank you, man. Lanre?
Well, thank you, Mark, for a beautiful presentation. And David, thank you for bringing in. And for everybody that participated and bring us this opportunity to hear Mark. I have a few questions, Mark, and please forgive me for some of the questions. When you said Africa, I want us to be very clear because it's the continent of Africa.
Yes, sir.
And they have almost 53 countries there. How many of these countries in Africa have you dealt with or talked to? Or because what you have in your hand, I would say in your hand, is a very, very useful tools in Africa, in the continent of Africa, some countries. And I believe Nigeria is one of them. So that's one question. The other question I have, because I jot a few things down here, do you guys only respond to disaster, or you can just...
No, sir. No, sir. As David said, most of our work has been gotten to be known with disaster response. But to be honest with you, we impacted almost 4 million people this year, well over 3 million last year, in countries like Ethiopia, Sudan, Kenya, Tanzania, Democratic Republic of Congo. You said you're from Nigeria, Senegal, many countries that we worked with in on the continent of Africa, if you will, and that work is really our heartbeat. The disasters happen. We didn't really know what we could do in a disaster, but a disaster happened when we were doing projects in 2009 in Costa Rica. The gentleman we were with knew the head of the Red Cross and the head of the Salvation Army in that earthquake response. We went, they began to weep. They said, how can you help us? And we set up systems that worked for many months providing safe water. And we realized, shucks, this works in a disaster. But like David said, that's probably what we're more well known for in the U.S. especially. In its area, but we work in many countries throughout Africa, from Ghana to I think I mentioned earlier Senegal and Sierra Leone. There's a lot of work that we've done in Malawi. So if that helps. Yes, sir. When I'm talking about the continent, I'm talking many different countries there in Africa. I love it when people ask, Mark, where are you guys going next? And I always say, where are you going? Because we want to be able to equip you to go there and do something spectacular. And that, like I said, that's our job as a guide. The less we go, the more we get to do. And we used to do 15, 18 trips a year years ago. But when we started honing our training programs to be able, now they're even on the cell phone. And I'll send y'all maybe we'll send you our bleach maker training. All you have to do is watch that. You don't even need us anymore. And that's what, Lanre, that's what we've been able to do, is to equip you to do something yourself. So that's why we're able to be in so many places and help so many people. It's like I was talking to you about Humphrey Machuma earlier. We didn't ever gone into the prisons in Kenya. We didn't ever thought of that. But his heart and passion drove him to do that, and we were able to cheer him on.
And I'm going to interject with that. I think that experience has taught us that the most successful outcomes have been when people themselves have taken control of it on the ground in those areas, and they have decided that they want to do it, and they learn to do it themselves, because then they don't, you know, they don't need us, which is great. I mean, why let us be the limiting factor in making this work for your country? You know, so we have kind of on the opposite end of that scale, the ones where people kind of want us to just sort of come in and fix everything for them. Oftentimes that just doesn't work that well. It really kind of needs somebody on the ground who wants it to happen and is willing to kind of take control of it. And so I'm speaking for you, Mark. I'm sorry. I can't help myself.
You're doing great. You're doing better than I could. Go for it.
Honestly, I'm really, I don't know, I'm blown off with this presentation. I think we should talk. You said you've done something in Nigeria. Like Mr. Badat said, the red tapes, whatever you want to do anywhere in the world, one needs to know the hoops and a little obstacle that may come in, or even if you don't know, people on the ground may know, and they can lead us. And so I think it's something that we need to talk. Mr. Badat, I'm going to get his information, and we all talk together on this.
Perfect. Thank you. Next, we'll have, I know Marcia had a couple of questions. One was, she asked, Mike mentioned all of the prisons. Is it in Kenya or throughout Africa? That was the first question.
That's a great question. It's in Kenya now, but I'm jazzed that we've got this done. So we're gonna find the team that wants to tackle another country, and go from there. So yeah, we'll see what happens. It's amazing. Who knew?
Perfect. Thank you for that. And then she had one more question was, Mike, have you been called on to assist with the water issues in Illinois?
That's a great question. And the answer is no. We never go anywhere where we don't have a connection or an invitation. So we don't just show up. So if someone in Illinois had a need for us to be there in a plan that we could be there, we'd do it.
Great.
So if I can expand on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Been watching a crisis with water, with health and health issues related to the water issues in Dixmoor, Illinois, for several years now due to water main breakages. And in February 2024, so just this year, the village declared a state of emergency because 3 more of their mains broke. So that's just one area of Illinois. Now add the merger of 3 towns, the poorest towns in America. It happens to be 75% African American, and they've had water issues. They literally have sewage water running through their streets, and they're using boats to maneuver through the high floodwaters. And those are Cahokia, I think is how you pronounce it, and 2 other towns that have merged with them, Centerville and Allerton. I mean, this is a shame if that they don't know about this process to at least get these people some relief. I mean, the infections and the various detrimental issues that overcome these residents because of the water issues. So thank you for this very needed presentation. And now it's incumbent on us to get the word out, especially to these towns. And to
absolutely. And Marcia, that would be, it seems to me like that's a disaster big enough that we could help some of those community leaders come up with a plan and a strategy to be able to push a plan out, even to try a pilot. Can we call it a pilot? We've got this big issue. Could we use some of these? What we do is decentralized water, and so these are decentralized systems. We're not providing water in plumbing for any way. We're having people come to get water to use, And we'd be honored to talk with some folks or give you and your team of people that you might pull together the bandwidth of information to go with these people. But what you're seeing, we just cannot, we're not going to be able to continue to afford the infrastructure that we built here in the U.S. And especially as the infrastructure keeps tearing apart, but also as our desire to investigate what's in water, and we want to get that taken out, and we put regulations around that. And we're regulating ourselves to death to require even more bells and whistles in our infrastructure, whether they may or may not be needed. But we're going to need to start putting stuff in our homes and that kind of stuff. That's another story. But my point is, I think you and your team, friends of people, and then those communities, this is a great opportunity to give them something to have a voice with.
Great. Thank you for that. Bill, before I get to you, I just had one more question for Mark. Have we asked the Realtor Relief Fund to invest in equipment? And then Bill, you're next.
We have not done that yet. That's one of the things, the Realtor Relief Fund and the Global Relief Fund, those are sort of on my list. I'm working toward making inroads with those guys. I've talked with them a couple of times, and it doesn't really, it would be something where it would be kind of like cross promotion kind of thing, because the kind of stuff that WaterStep does isn't really exactly what they have authority to spend funds on. And so, but that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of benefit in kind of getting to know each other and working with each other and those kinds of things. So that's on my list, but the answer is, I guess the answer is that's in process.
Thank you for that, Bill.
Okay, tremendously interesting. Thank you, both Mark and David. Rotary, okay, have you connected, or is Rotary connected in any way with WaterStep? Okay, I invited several Rotary people that I know in the community and sent this information to them. I don't know, is there anybody on the presentation from Rotary? If they are, you can speak. Yes. So, because Rotary,
and I am
go ahead.
Rotarian, Bill, and there's a lot of those international that are layered from the district to the national group, et cetera, et cetera. And so Rotary water is a big thing with Rotary. It's complicated how to get that done in the larger Rotarian construct. But our Rotary Club that I'm with, they're of course very passionate because me and several others from WaterStep are there. But they found a way to support water endeavors, and they were very supportive. My small Rotary Club, gave $5,000 to Asheville. So yes, I think Rotarians have a great mouth. As Marcia and I were talking about a voice, but they've got a great voice to shout out here as well.
Yeah. Well, your proclamation that you want to provide clean water to everybody in the world is similar to Rotary many years ago saying we're going to eliminate polio.
Absolutely.
And by gosh, they've done that down to, as far as I know, down to one country now, and they're still working on that process. So that's taken 40, 50 years, okay, from their original proclamation. Cost of the gym bag portion, okay, what does that cost if you were to provide that to an area or an individual?
So the gym bag chlorine generator is about $1,100, I think. You'd need some tanks to go with that if you're doing it in the developing world, a concrete pad, and those, some of those elements. Our bleach maker, I think, is about, and it manufactures the same science, if you will. It's kind of the other side of the coin. One manufactures chlorine gas, to inject in water. The bleach maker manufactures bleach as a solution. You can cut that by a factor of 9 and clean surfaces. You can use it at full strength for medical equipment for surgeries. But those two tools are great sisters, like David was talking about, in many parts of the world. So I can help you with if your Rotary Club decides we want to do something in this area, we want to apply some WaterStep program to it. Happy to help you with that.
Yeah, because Rotary's at 100 million Rotary, and maybe you know the numbers better than I do right now. 170 countries with 1,200,000 participants. And, so that's a grassroots organization, although it has a structure, like many of these organizations do, that you need to get attention because there's lots of projects, that people have. And Rotary started one, and I think this started in Europe someplace in a small little club where they produce shelter boxes for disasters. All right. You probably heard about those. Okay. So this seems to me to be another worthwhile emphasis, to try to put in front of more Rotarians in districts. All right. And we're right here in Chicago, Illinois, which is the birthplace of Rotary in Chicago.
That's right. That's right.
All right. So Rotary One, and I have a member Rotary that is Rotary One now that used to be in our local club here whenever I was president. So I'm going to continue to push this with Rotary and see if we can get some traction with that. So I might connect our Rotary up with your club in some kind of a presentation.
Sounds great. Here to help.
Thank you, Bill. I had a question. What does the maintenance look like, and how often is something needs to be worked on as far as both on the wall cart or the smaller?
Say that again.
Maintenance wise, can you tell me maintenance wise, what are we looking at as far as how frequent, what needs to be changed, and what costs are people expect to?
Yep. So I'll give you an example. In Asheville, the carbon filter on the well cart needed to be changed out in 6 weeks, I think twice. The particulate filters are rinsed out, regularly. They were having a problem where they were having to rinse them out every 30 minutes. And I think we got some leaves in the creek or something, they fixed that. But those kinds of things. And then you're going to need gas for the generator. The units that I mentioned earlier that Dave brought up, the chlorine generator, that's about the size of a North American football, and the bleach maker is kind of like a curling iron. Those last indefinitely. There's nothing that breaks on them. You just rinse them out every time you use them. They are special titanium coated anodes and cathodes on it, and very hard plastic casing. Those last a long time. The maintenance there is just kind of rinsing them out. You keep the wild cart rinsed out as well, but it's got other tools on there. It's got a pump on there, and it's a great pump from Zoller Pump Company, but you might have to eventually replace that. So those are the kind of maintenance things you're looking at.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions in the meantime?
I will mention, if you all have not noticed, if you don't have your chat on, Mark has put his contact information in the chat, his email and phone number, so you guys can reach out. And again, we're kind of, I'm going to use this word, which may be a little charged, but we're really looking more for disciples than anything else. I mean, we're trying to spread the word. And I'm speaking for Mark. If someone wanted to make a donation, that would be wonderful, but we're really mainly just trying to spread the word. And so I'm going to kind of, charge you guys, if this has touched you in any way and you have some ideas, please share the word, reach out to us, and we would love to try to grow again. We're trying to grow from the grassroots and go up. So we really, you all can make a difference. You'd be amazed what one person could do.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well, thank y'all again for letting me be here, and I'm hoping and praying with you all for more, and whatever that looks like, and maybe there's small groups of you guys that would pop up or whatever that looks like, but we're here, and I got little Sherpa outfits for all of us, so we could all just be Sherpas together.
Oh, sounds like a plan, man.
Sherry had a question before we finish. So Sherry, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
And maybe you address this because I had to step out sometimes periodically in here because it's a work day. But did you address some of the local, like county people responsible for emergency planning? Have you addressed? Do you normally make presentations to them?
Yes, ma'am, we have. We've done presentations to just about all the EPA regions. We've done county emergency management presentations, which we can do on a webinar, actually out of our training and manufacturing area. So absolutely, we'll talk to anybody about this. And again, that grassroots up. It's like I talked to you about earlier, if you were here, about our Kentucky Health Department. That was the grassroots up that really made the difference for our state. When they approached the governor's office and they said, we are the health department. And this is important, and they proved that that made a big difference. So I think, Sherry, the opportunity I wouldn't underestimate the opportunity of speaking to county groups. And you let me know.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I know we got Antonio and Mark Holt is our new attendee. Mark, do you want to say something? Mark fell asleep. Hey, Antonio, are you there? Okay, so Antonio is based in Portugal.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Hello, Antonio.
Wait.
Hi there. Oh, hi, Mark. Hey, Ahmed. Hello, everyone. Great presentation. We can always use some more clean water. That's for sure, anywhere in the world, right? So great presentation, Mark. Thank you. And everyone that put it together. Thank you.
Antonio, spread the word. And Antonio gets around. I mean, every time I'm looking at social media, he's in some different part of the world. So Antonio, whenever you're in Asia, in your travels in Europe, wherever, just, and you know David, right? You met David.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, David. Hello. It was great to see Teresa too, just recently in Barcelona. You're right. We were there with
another jet setter, and then Marsha. Yeah. So please do that
too, and Marsha as well. Yeah.
So you see, IEN National. That's one of our NAR partners. It's the Association of Estate Agents of Nigeria, but I don't know who is representing there. But there's a representative who's also on there. Then we got Frank Lloyd and Mark Holt and Rehan. Rehan, where are you from? Where are you based?
Hey, I am. Hello, good evening. Good evening.
Where are you, Rehan?
I am from Pakistan. Mark Holt invited me to the Zoom.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Oh, Mark did. So Mark, this is an interesting connection because Mark is a real estate broker, but also has a business that he does. I met Mark at the NAR conference, and Rehan does a lot of the work for Mark based in Pakistan. So you see our global connection here, Mark.
I love it. Let's change the world together. That's awesome.
Right. So, Ryan, remember, this is something, if you want to know more about, get in touch with any of us here, David or me or Dimitro, and we can, hook you up with people between the WaterStep and the organizations in Pakistan. Where are you in Pakistan?
I'm from Lahore.
Lahore, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, absolutely. A good connection.
Okay. Well, with that being said, thank you everybody for joining us today. Please spread the word, as David said, and hopefully get some traction with this. And enjoy the holidays, and we will look forward to seeing you guys next year. In the meantime, Mark's information, like we said, is in the chat. Please use it. And thank you for joining.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bless you. Thank you.
Mark, quick question before you get off. I had a question about the medical grade, the bleach maker. How does it work? How do you, between the two different machines, how easy is that to set up?
No, it's unbelievable. I sent you all a tutorial on there, and in 10 minutes, you'll know the different recipes you can make, how to make it. But basically, you've got a jug, and you put about a cup and a half of salt in the jug, and it's 5 liters, and you shake it up and make your salt solution. Then you got a stick about the size of a curling iron. You stick it down in there and screw the cap on, and it's got these wires, and the wires can go to a 12-volt battery, or we have a little unit that anywhere in the world you can plug that into, and it will transform your grid power to 12 volts. So you could actually plug it into a wall. In about 70 minutes, the World Health Organization says you need 5,000 parts per million bleach to be an acceptable disinfectant for bloodborne pathogens and those kinds of things, bacteria and all those things, fecal matter. Ours does about 7,200 parts per million, so it's stronger. But in 70 minutes, you have an amazing tool. I give you another thing. We made 5 of those 5-liter bleach containers. We treated a large, about 200-gallon tank, and we poured that into a tanker truck in Asheville, and we treated all of the water in that tanker truck to be able to be potable to drink. It's a very, very amazing tool that has a tremendous amount of possibilities.
So from what I understand, it's based off of, the size of the container is how much you'll be able to make at any single time, or a batch, if you will, or is it continuous?
Yeah, no, you're going to make it in that 5-liter container. You're going to have 7,200 parts per million of the sodium hypochlorite. And then you're going to be able to use that full strength, or you can cut that in different recipes and that kind of thing for different applications. From sanitizing a kitchen to other surfaces, to actually dosing that in water to make it safe to drink. So it's going to be made in that the curling iron stick is designed for that specific container, and again, there's nothing to break on it, so it'll last for a long time.
I was just thinking from perspective of if you go to hospitals and you need large quantities, would you be able to modify it in a way that you're making, not 5, liters or whatever the case may be into much something? So you are able to do that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So you would just use more bleach makers to make more bleach. Yeah. And then if you're going to be like you want to sanitize your floors and the rooms and that kind of stuff, you wouldn't use it full strength. Right. So you'd probably cut that. So now you not only have 5 liters, but now you might have 25 liters of a disinfectant solution for floors and that kind of thing.
Awesome. Appreciate that. I'll keep that in mind, just because I have a couple of connections that I think I want to pitch this to and see if it's something that would,
Right. it's a game changer in the developing world for clinics and hospitals. You just can't get bleach, and if you can, it's so expensive, then they wouldn't be able to afford anything else in their healthcare facility.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, this was very, very, I mean, this is just amazing. So David, thank you for the introduction. This is just top notch. And with that, I mean, Ahmed, you want to say anything else, or I guess we're going to end it on this
No,
note?
we will continue the conversation. Yeah. And as Mr. Landry said, we will set up for the new year a conversation with him regarding Nigeria.
Oh, one last question. The Duffelback version for the water. How much water does that do in a day? Because I know the WOW does the WOW does 10,000 up to 10,000. How much is this doing?
Up to 10,000, and the chlorine generator can do that as well. And that's so with the wild card, you're slowing down your production a little bit because you're putting the water through filtration. It's going through a UV machine, etc. If you're wanting to just sanitize water, like you could even filter water through a T-shirt. The problem we have is oftentimes we think safe water, potable water has to be clear, not necessarily. So you can have cloudy water and it be safe to drink, and that's what your chlorine generator is going to do. You're going to be able to operate that, and it will cycle water. You put a little pump. The room you're in, we could fill up a huge tank and put this little pump in there, and it's going to cycle water through the tubing, and there's a venturi that sucks the gas off the chlorine in the machine, and it is able to get throughout the water, fight the pathogens, and really at the rate of about 55 gallons a minute, 250 liters a minute, it potentially can kill the bacteria and the pathogens. You simply test it with a pool tester to get that to hold your level of chlorine, and then within minutes, hours, you've got water to drink. Amazing. Potentially 10,000 gallons a day.
And let's kind of think of the wild card as sort of everything in one. Sure. And so the water that you get from the wild card is really on the same level as water sanitation in the city that you are getting. I mean, it does that level of filtration, that level of clean water. The general purifier, again, it might not look really, but it may not be completely clear or something like that. It would be safe to drink, but the wild card takes it an extra level, and it filters out all of those filtrates and everything else, so that you're getting not only pure in terms of sanitary, but also filtered and clear.
Clarity.
Mm-hmm. Clarity, right?
Yeah, a little more clear. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for that. This is amazing. So,
David, you went 2 minutes over. You got to get a citation, man, in the mail.
Awesome.
I was waiting for someone to call me, pull the hook to pull me off stage, but
yeah, good job.
Well, great job, everybody.
Don't forget to look at your phone. I send you a text, man.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Okay, I will. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you, guys.
Really appreciate y'all letting us do this today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Happy holidays. Y'all be safe.
All right. Take care, everybody.